one place, like this is where we throw our children, where a lot of the children don't survive 1 year.
Oh my goodness.
Right, and you just I mean, they didn't allow me to get there, but this is where we throw.
They throw children
when they
there?
die, like when they die.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Conversations Over Coffee, coming to you from Green Grit TV. Today we want to see through the eyes of environmental activists who don't just analyze the issues from a comfortable studio like yours truly, but they walk right into the heart of the crisis. While some people tackle policies and discussions from behind a mic, we have people out there where the real people are suffering, where the air reeks of oil spills, where corporations and governments prefer silence over accountability. I have Omi Tobechukwu Prosper Diolu, and he is that activist. He is the co-founder of Link Green Climate Change Initiative, a writer and the force behind the Look Beyond Oil campaign. He has dedicated his work to amplifying the voices of communities that are often left behind and definitely raising the next generation of climate defendants. And with all his work and fearless advocacy, I like to call him the Ken Saro-Wiwa of our time. He's very relentless, bold, and unafraid to challenge the system. And today we get to hear stories from him and his colleague, who we also have in the studio, Hawa Abubakar Honey, and that is the Northern Coordinator of Link Green, and they will be joining today's conversation. It's so good to have you both on the program. Thank you so much for joining. Yeah, how are you doing, Toby?
Thank you.
Yeah, how's your trip been in Abuja? I know you.
It's amazing.
Okay.
We see where our oil money is.
I see that. So let's just get right into the conversation, because I mean, when we planned this, I know, like I said, you've had a lot of experience on the field. So I didn't want to put you in a box, because I know there's just so much that you can say. So I just want you to, the essence is just, let's see the issue through your eyes and just the experience that you've been through. So first of all, I want you to take us through your journey in activism, where it all started from. Were there personal experiences you had or third-party experiences that made you decide that I want to do something about this, I must do something about it? What was that exact thing that inspired you to go through this journey of activism, especially in the environmental sector?
Okay, I mean, it's interesting because I have a lot of... So I've been in the social work space for about 10 years, right?
Okay.
2010, I did my IT with DPI, Development Prospects and Initiative. We did a lot of... The organization was more focused on poverty alleviation. And we did a lot of, these things are interconnected, right? But then in 2022, the famous flooding in Bayelsa, right? I mean, it cut across Nigeria, but Bayelsa was really affected. I was opportune to be part of the people that provided relief materials and covered it, and what I saw, right? I mean, I've been talking about climate change, and especially from the angle of biodiversity preservation, and many of those things just sound like the normal cliche, right? Biodiversity, let's save the planet, the political correctness of all that. But for the first time, I mean, there was a particular woman that woke up in the morning and she saw like 2 or 3 of her children floating, right?
Wow.
We captured that. I heard stories, I saw pictures. In fact, at the IDP camp, you see women looking for their children. Where is Bola? Where is this person? And there was a particular case where I think her and her husband were coming out, were running away, and she didn't see her husband again. The man fell into one of the canals and he was just washed away. We covered all that, and for the first time in my life, I saw suffering. Because I read statistics and the researcher's mindset, we always do cause and effect. We understand that the effect is beyond the effect. There's a cause, and that's why I started going deeper into understanding what is the cause for this flooding. What is the issue. We also went to Omok, went to some communities in River State where, I heard stories, I saw things. I saw the injustice. I began to read about climate change. So I was telling how when we were coming out, the first thing I did in Link Green when we wanted to start Link Green. Link Green is Leaders in Nigeria Connecting Green.
Okay.
So I called 3 of my friends that I saw that these guys are passionate about social work, and I said, look, let's come together, let's form a synergy, and everybody, environmentalists, researchers, scientists, and let's do a research. Let's shut down for like 6 months, and we started visiting communities. We'll stay in one community for 2 weeks, because I know that it's easy for people to talk from the head without talking from the heart. And the difference between Lingrin and many other organizations is that we understand the issues from the heart. And most times where you see environmental defenders that are ready to die for the cause, it's beyond mental knowledge, it's not mental assent. This is experiential knowledge, this is we have seen it. And so when you close your eye to sleep in the night, you hear the cries, you see the picture, and knowing that you can do something about it, even in your little way, now begins to inform your actions. And so that's what we did. We didn't go straight up into advocacy. We went first into cause and effects, into seeing different cultures, understanding their issues. From the grassroots, we went to Bayelsa, we went to Delta, we went to rivers, some communities in rivers. I mean, so far, from 2022 till now, I've visited at least 58 communities. Indigenous, when I mean indigenous, not Abuja kind of thing, indigenous communities, and so I mean that different experiences, and then we now begin to understand that number one, we have the major global climate issue, and then we now have the local environmental pollution crisis, which we have that cross-sectional relationship between both of them, and then we now saw different intricacies of the entire climate conversation from both angles, the environmental damage, sociocultural issues, and different aspects of the journey.
All right, thank you. So, of course, we're going to get deep into that, but let me also hear from you, Hawa. What has your journey through activism been like? What are some specific things you've seen that keeps you going, that keeps driving you? Some stories you've heard or personal experiences you've had. Let me hear you on that as well.
Okay. So one of the things that keeps me going in terms of activism is always when I hear from people, especially from the documentaries from Lingrin. So I have just experienced very few climate crisis, but I have seen stories, I have seen women, and I'm very, very emotional when I see women suffering, when I see children suffering. I have seen women lose their children, and I can imagine how painful that would be. I have seen children lose their parents, and then I think that is just what keeps me going. Can I make an impact? Can I do something to help these people? And then the environment, for example, we're always waiting on the government. Oh, government this, government that. But we as the people, how well do we take care of our earth? We have just one earth. And then people just throw litters. In Abuja, it's very common. People drive past and then they throw the litters. They don't even care. And then I'm like, okay, if I can raise awareness about this, because for a lot of people, you're not very conscious when they do things like that. If I can raise awareness about things like this, if I can talk to people, use my platform across Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, talk to people, advise them, and then I face a lot of backlash. Oh, climate change is a scam. What are you doing? But I mean, some person still reach out to me in my DM. Wow, I like what you're doing. You have impacted me. When I see those kind of comments, I mean, I feel as if I'm making exactly. Yeah.
All right. So now let me come back to you, Toby. I know you your organization. You do a lot of community outreach. You see a lot of things. Some of them might be very horrific things. I can imagine. So I want you to give us in all the outreaches you've done. I want you to give us a particular story that touched your heart, or a particular thing you saw that you feel, especially in the Niger Delta. Of course, there's a lot of information out there, but until you go there, before you know how deep it is. And I feel that there are some things that have been kept behind the curtain. There are some things that have not been talked about enough. So in all your community outreaches, if you can just give us even if it's just one part or two, where there was something you saw that you feel needs to be spoken about much more, that these people are going through and we don't know, and probably the government has tried to keep it under the wraps or something. Just a particular story or experience you saw these people having that you want to bring to light.
Well, see, I have plenty. One strikes me. There's this island in the Nembe Plain in Bayelsa. Bayelsa suffering is unimaginable. Bayelsa.
Interesting.
There's just go there, especially the coastal communities. So there's this coastal community plain. We have about 7 communities. I did needs assessment there, Eweleso, Tomkri, Blokoma, many of them. It's in the Nembe Creek, that's area they call it. And it's about 5 hours away from land, and entering that community for needs assessment, I saw, when you watch The Girls Must Be Crazy, that old, because most times, and I used to say that most times people that call themselves advocates, I mean, everybody has their niche. You really don't know until you know, right? And so when I went there, I saw a different kind of life. I saw communities that they have to, for them to drink pure water, right? They have to use 5 hours to buy. Like when a market person that is even opportunity to have a boat buys pure water from town, you see people rushing. It's just like they're rushing grain of. You see them rushing to collect. And one woman told me that many times, she showed me one place that this is where we throw our children, where a lot of the children don't survive 1 year.
Oh my goodness.
Right, and you just I mean, they didn't allow me to get there, but this is where we throw.
They throw children
when they die, like when they die, because they don't even have
to bury
exactly.
the
They don't even have,
Okay.
because it's because of climate change. Of course, these communities are being washed away,
Yeah.
and then these communities are host communities to oil industries. So you are seeing a climate change crisis, an environmental pollution crisis.
Yeah.
Their waters are damaged. They don't have schools. You see their buildings, they don't have health care centers. So it's almost like the survival of the fittest. If you can survive
Wow.
1 year, 2 years, glory be to God. If you
Serious.
die, we throw you somewhere, because I mean it's you see, and she was just talking to me about, and she just took me to one corner, and I mean at that point I just knew that okay, this is real. Not just one community. This is a community that we have over 15 communities in that land. But I was fortunate to go to about 11. And I have the reports, I have videos and pictures from a lot of those communities. There are some places we couldn't even enter because they don't have access. It's almost like, so when I heard that experience has stayed with me forever. It's at the back of my head. In fact, there are certain clips I can't even
And this was not many years ago. This is something
was last
recent.
year.
Just last year.
It was last year. So it was September last year, and I mean, I for the first time I spoke to a lot of them, and we see needs assessments, needs as many of them are saying, if we can just get water to drink. We buy pure water.
Yeah.
It's not this, and you're
Yeah,
if you cannot afford bottled water, and sometimes we even
there's even
complain.
tap water.
Yeah, we even complain. I mean, this water, but this guy, you see their water is black. And sometimes they just drink it like that because they don't have alternative, and seeing people survive that, it's not a good thing to see.
No, that's horrible.
And I mean, if talking about it, a lot of people that have been deep in community work, they know what I'm talking about. That is not just, there are many communities that are like that. Last year, we did a documentary last year on Soku and Oyokotoro. Soku is in Akukutoro local government, Oyokotoro is in Andoni local government. Oyokotoro used to be the biggest. When we entered that community, I was telling her, some of my team members were throwing up because the first sites we saw, they were bringing dead bodies from the river. That those guys are because of climate change and oil pollution majorly. They can't find fishes in the shore again, so they have to go deep inside the water. And then we were seeing people gathering that the boat has capsized somewhere, and the man told us that this happens almost every day. And I mean, sometimes you just, as they are going, they kiss their loved ones. If we come back, we must eat.
Wow.
you see that reality, and I mean, it's just.
I mean, it's quite interesting because now, when we, especially in a country like Africa, there's a lot of ignorance when it comes to this issue of climate change. Most people see it as, we just want to make noise, we just want to get money, but it's much different when you see people are actually suffering from these things. And it's unfortunate because the people that suffer for it, they are not people that can speak out. They don't have that opportunity to speak. They're just in one corner. We don't even know what's happening to them. We that were shouting all over the place, it's not necessarily directly affecting us, but the people directly affected can't actually speak. So I want to ask now, have you at any point faced some sort of oppression, as in, I mean, in the sense of, have you tried to be silenced? Have you faced any, especially in by the government, when you go out on all these outreaches and, you try to demand accountability, how responsive has the government been? Have you at any point, because I know sometimes some people even get arrested for this thing, some people even, they kill them. So have you faced some sort of violence in that sense of you being trying to be suppressed, in trying to, get the voices of these people out?
Of course. See, the truth of the matter is that if you have been in the NGO space for a long time, so I understand community entry, right? That has helped us a lot, because I've noticed that a lot of community people really, really want to tell their stories. So many times this community will protect you. I mean, there was one case we had in I for security reasons, most times I don't want to mention the names of some of those communities, but one of the communities in Bayelsa State, where the community people had to shield us from youths, that people that they sent, who are these people that want to expose, or I mean, there's what they call the divide and rule. So oil companies most times use some of these youths to, and those guys had to shield us that no, you are not collecting these people. So that there was a case where I was telling her where they locked us in one place for like 3 days. Right?
That's the people in the community themselves.
The boys. They wanted to find out who sent us, who sent people, and they were just in one place for like every day we'll be praying, God save us, God save us. And we've had those kind of experiences where the last documentary we did, some of our team, some team people came from Lagos, they saw what when we are talking about this thing, no one they were invited to go to one of, in fact, this guy was almost, when we saw guys coming with guns, he was almost dying. I said, guy, this is what we experience every time. But most times what we do, so I mean, we have that every time we go, anytime I go to a community, I used to tell my team members, it's 50-50, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
I used to tell them,
wow,
it's 50-50. These communities are very volatile. You can tick all the boxes and something will still go wrong.
Yeah.
And trust me, we try to tick all the boxes. We send word before time. We talk to security agencies. We talk to the military, who most times they give us support. We always go to the local government police command. We talk to, and they support us because we are young people. They see that we are doing good most times. Yeah, of course, most resistance we face are from the oil companies. We don't want cameras here. We don't want, but the community people are always receptive. And we do all that, we tick all the boxes, but sometimes something can just happen. They could be the sea pirates, that just want to collect money. They are seeing most of what I do is I tell my community members, when we go to communities, we dress like community people. Nobody is looking fancy. Sometimes I wear my palm slippers and any girl that is in makeup, I say, oh God, this is not
this is not the time and place.
Put your wig, leave your braid. Let's look like, let's blend. Because when they know when you are different, and we tick all those boxes. But at that, there are still certain people that sometimes even the community mobilizers that you use are affiliated with some of these boys. And they will just, these guys are community mobilizers, and you tell them we are coming because you have to pay homage to those guys. And they will tell one of their, somehow, that people there was a community we were supposed to go to in somewhere in River State, and we had already set out to go. Somebody just called me from the community saying, "Guy, don't come. People are looking for you here. There's an ambush for you."
Are you serious?
So you try. We experience all that. Sometimes there was one community we went to where we had we've had great support from security agencies, right? But sometimes some people don't want. They're apprehensive when they see cameras. They feel like you want to come and disgrace them or something, and they held us in one police facility for some hours. We had to explain ourselves. I even had to show them pictures that look, I've snapped pictures with police. We used to do training. We are not your enemy. This is what we do. They needed proof, and I understood that time River State was going through a political crisis. We are still going through. So sometimes they want to know, are you guys spies? And they try to. And sometimes our team members are, but me, I'm used to it. I know that it's one way. It's either we come out or we don't come out.
Wow.
Right? And sometimes we experience all that. But largely, generally, what I know to be a fact is that community people want their stories to be heard, including those boys. Nobody really enjoys the violence. Even the community people face. One of our videos, you hear one of the ladies saying they kidnapped her son. She's a farmer in the community. And I meet with her every time and I talk to her. The last time I was telling you that the last paramount ruler, when we went to do interview, they kidnapped him for 3 months. A paramount ruler. So if they can do that, and these people don't like those things, so most times they want their stories to be heard. So many times community will protect us. Of course, the security agencies too, they do their best to help us, but then there's still the outliers, and sometimes we still face some of those threats. One time we went to one particular oil well and we were capturing, and then God helped us that one of the boat guys, we usually have this radio, so the guy used to tune, they talk through this, their walkie. So he was hearing, he used to tune. The guy was very security conscious, so he was going through all the frequencies to know if there's any communication around there. We just started hearing, they did this place, they did this place, they did this place.
Oh my goodness.
If you see the way we jumped inside the water to run away, our team, in fact, this was last year when we went to Soko. We jumped inside the water like this. Some people were swimming, our camera, some of our equipment were damaged, but we just needed to run for our life because we knew that they have spotted us and some people were coming. So we experienced it's like a movie, but it's interesting.
Okay.
That was what I said this morning. It sounds like a movie.
Do you also go on these community outreaches?
No, not yet, but I mean, in the future.
So how was your main form of activism is usually online, right? So have you also, because now there's also this cancel culture online that's very, it's everywhere. So usually when you're saying something that people are not used to, or there's usually backlash. So I want to know, have you had such challenges? What has the online space been very open to, hearing these stories when you try to project them?
Well, I face more negative comments than positive comments. There are lots of people who, for some reason, do not just want to hear the truth. Because, I feel like every single Nigerian know that this is a fact, even if we are not so certain about it. But they just don't want to hear the truth. And then they're always like, oh, what do you know? You're in the comfort of your home. I'm like, for me to be in the comfort of my home to say this, imagine what people who are out there will be facing. They're always like, it is exaggerated. When you come with figures, they'll be like, oh, all these figures are exaggerated. And then I feel like what Mr. Toby was telling me this morning, some figures are even, some deaths records are even underreported.
Yeah.
So I just ignore negativity and focus on positivity. That's what I do. Some persons might go as far as not just putting out negative comments about what you're seeing, but about your person.
Yeah, of course.
It's a Muslim woman, you shouldn't.
I
face things like that. So I just ignore comments that are not related to what I am talking about.
So how do you assess the government's response to these issues? So far there's been a lot of talk on it, and we do hear them say they are doing some things. They go here to check, but from your own little space, how well do you think the government is doing in ensuring that these people, especially in the most vulnerable places, because some of these places you are speaking to, the government they've probably never been there. When they want to do their projects, they go to places like Lagos where everybody knows they've been there. So how do you assess their response to these particular issues, and especially in terms of also giving support to the activists as well, trying to project these stories? How would you assess that from your perspective? How well would you say they have done to be able to address these issues?
Well, I would say there's room for improvement.
There's room for of course, definitely.
Yeah.
So okay, let me also hear from you. And I came across one of your posts, and you were speaking. I think it was somehow a backlash on the people that I think it was about greenwashing or something, and you were talking about how climate change mitigation is more of optics than real. I saw that, and it was a very interesting write-up that you spoke about, and I want to hear your thoughts on that, because from what I read, you were trying to imply that most people are just doing it based on career ambitions, and probably like it's mainly political and all of that. So how do you think we can strike a balance between that? And what are some of these issues you've seen in climate change mitigation that you feel, most people are just doing it just for the sake of optics and not because they're genuinely concerned? And also, when you made that statement, was it in relation to Africa alone, or did you actually mean that in the global context? So I just want to know what you meant behind that particular write-up.
In the global context.
In the global context, okay.
It's more like political correctness for a lot of people, and a lot of companies. I also wrote something yesterday, and you see, I've seen a lot. Right? Apart from being, the good thing about lingering is that we have a lot of international affiliations. We don't have time has been really supportive, and they publish our work a lot. In fact, I mean, a lot of international. So we have privy to data. I was part of COP29 last year, so I spoke, and I also saw the same. So there are, of course, we still have good advocates. See, we would have been in a terrible fix if we didn't have voices. We have voices. We have a lot of people that are standing for the truth. But we still have the corporations that are, that it's for them, it's like, okay, for example, now if you go to Niger Delta, you see a lot of oil companies that have green in front of their names. A typical
Oil
one that,
companies.
yeah, a
Are you
typical one that
serious?
I will soon go after. I'm just gathering my evidence, right? Green energy. There's nothing green about that energy. Do you understand? And for me, it's just adding green is just making people feel like you are for us,
Yeah.
but you are constantly
reality,
exploring. In reality, it's just political correct. It's not like, okay, you people shall want us to throw in sustainability. So we are telling you that this is sustainable energy, but it's not. There's nothing sustainable about it.
Yeah.
And there are many companies like that. There are many interventions that the primary goal is profits. They do not care about the environment, but they have seen a loophole. They have seen that let's just put sustainable inside, and at least the mob will not come for us, right? And it cuts across every. See, that's just it. It's like it's profit, but some oil companies too have seen that, okay, people are gravitating towards renewable energy. Let's now open a branch of this company that so that we'll silence them and say that, oh look, we are it's see, when I start going after these people, you see, and I'll do a lot of, and I used to tell lingering people that, see, I don't want to build lingering around myself, because I want us to still continue the activism and advocacy. But me, Tobechiku, I'm going to do a lot of publications in the coming years, and I know that it makes sense if you have real data. I don't want to do false accusations, and that's why I gather a lot of evidence about a lot of these companies that are doing greenwashing. There are many of them like that. In the side of the government, okay, before that, we also have advocates that really do not understand the issues. Recently, we've been having a lot of forums in Niger Delta. If you've seen them, we started these young climate advocates in Niger Delta region meetings, and I love everybody. Perfect, John Dick, Uzo, all of them, Tara. There are many of these young people that are very passionate, and I see what they are doing, and we do a lot of collaboration in lingering. If you see, we do a lot of collaboration, and we begin to talk to ourselves that look, this is, as much as yes, it's a career path, you can build your career, but we have to be able to translate from head knowledge to heart knowledge. Secondly, we should stop doing the copy and paste model where United Nations gives us a document and we just copy and paste without understanding context. For example, I go to a community like Soku, where there are more trees than human beings. If you look at the vegetation of that, you look at all those my drone shots, you see trees, you now see tiny, and you now go there and be telling them, don't cook with. Those communities are clean communities. In the mathematics of carbon capture and carbon footprint, many of these communities, they have more carbon capture than what they emit. So many of these communities are net zero, but people, you don't know, because you don't understand the climate science. You don't know the climate mathematics. So you go to that community, what you should be preaching should be climate justice. You should be saying these guys are not responsible for climate change, but they are suffering the brunt of it. Not going there to put burden on them and telling them, you're not, you should need to ride bicycle. That's not their issue. So I'm telling these guys that, look, we need to be contextual. We look at what is happening with US now. It's now obvious that there's a problem with the Paris Agreement, because if any country can just come and walk away from Paris Agreement, then how is it an agreement? If there's no law binding all the countries, and you are now putting the pressure on the global south that contributes just 4% or less to the climate crisis, and America till today is still one of the highest emitters of CO2, and these guys are pulling away from agreement. There's no consequences. What are you telling us? Can you now tell our government to stop producing oil? So there's a lot of hypocrisy in the whole. The guys that are giving us the materials to consume are not living by those those materials. They are doing completely opposite, and then they come to our country and they begin to and then you yourself as an advocate, you just copy what you hear in the conference and then begin to paste it on us without understanding context, without understanding content. So that's my fight with a lot of those advocates. When you go to that international platform, what do you say? Right? They tell you this, and you just say exactly what they are telling you without going to tell the stories of what Africans are. The highlight of our message should be: we are not the cause of climate crisis. Statistically, mathematically, we are not the cause of it. What we should be talking about in Nigeria should be climate justice. We should be talking about adaptation. We should be talking about loss and damage. All the billions that you guys are contributing in COP from COP 13 till now. How many communities can you say that these communities benefited from loss and damage? How many? Let us now go and do head counts. Let's be mathematical in our approach.
But if you say we are not, and I'm speaking like for Africans, for instance, because the truth is that there's a lot of ignorance when it comes to this issue, and people just do things mindlessly. And then even aside just the average citizen, there's also the government who continuously are, their work and everything is hinged on, especially the production of oil and fossil fuels and all of that. So I don't know. I mean, because I've had this conversation a couple of times, and we Africans, shouting for reparation and the damages. Yes, they came and they had a very big role to play in where we are today. But we also, don't you think we have contributed a lot to it? Because ignorance in itself is the reason why we're not moving forward. First of all, some are ignorant, intentionally ignorant, even though it's right in their face. And even though with all of the information we have, our government, they're still hinged on, we want to develop the economy. And it's important because Africa is a backward continent. As much as we don't like this, we'll still say the truth. We still have a long way to go. So in the terms of economic development, I mean, that's what the government is trying to do. And unfortunately, their own economic development is still hinged on, especially fossil fuel production. So how do you think we can balance that out to ensure that, we actually meet at a balance point? So what do you think about that?
My head, if I think what's inside my head, right? We had a podcast recently, and so let even the mathematics do not agree to a lot of things. And our Look Beyond Oil campaign, we primarily really started that because of the issues in Nigeria regarding oil exploration. In the global sense of climate change, the mathematics of it, Africa has contributed very little. But we have major environmental crisis. And that's where we talk to ourselves as climate advocates. We need to be able to break down grammar. You see, the issue with climate change is the grammar, right? Many people, everything is just confusing. People don't know which is which and which is which, right? And everything still boils down to climate change is the bigger umbrella, right? But we have a lot of issues under the climate change conversation. We have methane. I begin to talk about that one, which is from waste, right? And you know that Nigeria is a highly wasteful country. The problem we have in Nigeria is that we don't have a culture of sustainability. And that's where people like Hawa, activism is very strong in the sense of raising this generation to have sustainability mindset, that this oil exploration, at what cost? Do you know what is the cost of it? We've seen livelihoods destroyed at a very large scale. We've seen, in fact, yesterday somebody was talking from the conference we attended that in my community we have a lot of miscarriages that is linked to this poor fire and this oil extractivism, the bad air. When you come to some places in River State, you can't even really breathe properly. You touch your nose and it's black. Imagine having to live like that. And a lot of deaths, a lot of healthcare crisis and when we talk about transition, when we say Africa is not the cause, we're not excluding them from, because at the end of the day, the world must stop this fossil fuel thing. For me, I believe that's the only way. These other things that we are doing,
I think it's an impossible feat. I think what we can do is just try to balance that. As much as we're emitting, we can also be able to have other ones that are capturing them.
Let me tell you the reality. The mathematics of it, you can check it out. The world produces over 100 million tons of CO2 every day. Let's say, give or take 90. I did the analysis recently. like 94 million daily.
Mm.
We capture an average of 10 million. You see the mathematics. So we have the mathematics. People need to sit down and study the mathematics of climate change. We need to start a school.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know.
Yeah,
We
actually.
understand the emotions of it,
Yeah.
but we need to sit down. See, the world is in a ticking time bomb
I
mathematically.
agree.
See the kind of hits that came with this year.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Just imagine what 5 years will be.
Mm.
And it's just that we don't understand how bad it is
Yeah.
until there's a particular community that in Niger Delta that the community does not exist again because the water bank has overridden that community. There are many communities like that globally that these communities don't exist again. And it's going to get worse. And that's what I was saying when they were attacking her on. I was trying to defend her online. I said, look, I was listing the names of communities that no longer exist. And we are facing an extinction issue. This is not political correctness. I'm telling you facts. I've seen these things. Well, imagine if, and from 2022 or from 2020, every year there is flooding crisis now. Unlike before that you have it once in
10 years.
10 years, once in 20 years. So we are facing hunger crisis. We are going to face extinct. Look at what happened with dams are getting overfilled these days very fast. Just imagine if you have 2 floodings every year. There are many people that, in fact, we'll be talking about ground level extent. In 2 years ago, the death toll in Libya was over 10,000 dead people from flooding. 10,000. They said if you see the mass burial. So what we're saying is that we don't have a choice, and that's why I like the message of we don't have time. It's clear we don't have time, and I understood what they were saying because these guys are scientific. They started giving me a lot of scientific, and I looked at it. Okay, I've experienced this thing. I've seen that truly, we need to be, and you see this attitude of we shall know that it's not possible, in the sense of it, until we now begin to see the price we have to pay.
Yeah.
So the question is at what costs? And if we have this behind our mind, okay, let us keep drilling, but at what costs? I think that will now begin, and that's why the work of Lingering and a lot of organizations that highlight the stories. In fact, at some point I say, let's stop talking about science. Let's just be going to communities and let's be telling them. Let's be seeing that people are living in the reality of all this. You know, so it is very possible to do without fossil fuel, although the challenge is that we don't have time.
I get you. I understand. No, I fully understand.
Let me just say this again. Finally, the issue now is that the world globally, there's trillions of dollars that is going into subsidy for oil production. What we are saying is that let's move the money. Let us move the money. Let's see the willpower of government to move the money away from fossil fuel subsidies that is in the value chain of fossil fuel. Like, let's move it now to research and development for renewable energy, and let's explore other alternatives on which we have not seen that willpower. It's just we're in our comfort zone, just because many of them are living in Asokoro and so they have not really
this is
seen.
Asokoro. You just gave us that was a straight bullet.
So it's not the urgency doesn't seem like, and secondly, globally, you have the global. I don't want to go into all that. So globally, people don't really, if you're in your comfort zone,
people
don't see sustainability. People don't see beyond. Let's just live, make the money. That's Donald Trump's mindset. Make more money, more money. No sustain. What happens to your children? What happens if the world becomes unlivable? What happens if the world becomes so hot that people cannot even survive? They're not thinking about it. So.
Okay, so Howard, let me come to you now. What specific approach do you think we need to see differently towards, especially this climate change mitigation? What do you think that we're not doing enough, that we need to do better? Even just, aside the government, even as citizens, like you said earlier, there are small things that each of us can do. And if everyone was as sustainability conscious, there might be changes we'll be able to make. So what specific approach do you think we need to take to be able to ensure that at least slowly but surely we are making some improvements?
So I think it's a mindset shift.
Yeah.
I feel like, okay, for example, the way I personally am climate conscious, waste conscious, if every single person behaves that way, there would be a significant difference. Like I was giving an example in my classroom. because my school is very close to a very bad waste and dump, and then I grew up in that area. And then I was giving an instance. When I was growing up, this place was not like this. How did it get to this area? And everybody's like, oh, I don't put waste, that only my waste cannot contribute. I'm like, no. If everybody decides, okay, I am going to take a step and I am not going to put waste, like I'm not going to like throw waste on the floor again, it will create an impact. So if everybody in Nigeria, for example, decide that I want Nigeria not to be as hot as it is. I mean, everyone faced the heat this year. It was intense. I mean, we're fasting.
It is.
We were fasting, and everybody's like, oh my God, why is everywhere so hot? I'm like, when we talk about climate change, you people are like, oh, it's a scam. I am wondering why everywhere is so hot. How does that make sense? So if we start being conscious, we will start. I mean, I just think it's the mindset.
Yeah, that's the first thing.
Change our mindset. There's this saying, as within, so without. When you change the way you think within, you would create an impact in the environment.
All right. So let me now before we wrap up, I think a lot has been said, but we're running out of time. I really wish we could go on and on, but there are some things you just can't keep saying on screen. But now with all of these challenges you face, I'll start with you, then I'll also get her final thoughts on that. With all the challenges you faced as an environmental activist, and in the particular space that you're in, sometimes it can be maximum input, and the result is almost disproportionate, and sometimes you can get discouraged, you can feel like giving up. So now, to fellow activists like you, to fellow advocates, and the ones that are already in the space and the ones that want to be in the space, what sort of encouragement would you give them to keep you going? And what else? I mean, I think you've given us a bit onto what has been keeping you going, which is the stories and all of that. But in situations when you are almost discouraged because of the dynamic with that particular space that you're in, what sort of encouragement would you give to people like you, people that are in your space, to keep going and to ensure that they don't throw in the towel in the face of the various challenges that I'm sure they're going to face?
Okay, so I posted something yesterday, and I said, as much as everybody wants to see their grandchildren and see all that, I think what is most important for me is that my grandchildren have a world to live in. I want them to remember and say how my daddy defended the planet. Right? I want them to beyond the cars, and I mean, you can leave cars and house and flood will come and carry it.
Yeah.
You see, look, there's nobody we hide from the repercussions of climate change.
Yeah.
So the first thing is that I look at generation unborn. I say that there's a difference between being wealthy and being great. Greatness is tied to Kensariwa. He probably may not be a wealthy man. He didn't even live as long, but he's a great person.
Yeah.
There are many other people like that, Martin Luther King, many people like that we can point to them and say these people were great, because the freedom we enjoy today is attached to the sacrifices they did. So that should be in your subconscious, as it takes time to get to that place. You have to come to a level of personal consecration in terms of the way your mind works, and living beyond yourself to think like that. But every advocate or activist must begin to think like that. Secondly, we've seen the little wins. Every advocate and activist, I've said it would have been in a mess. The Bukuma fires, it had been going on for more than 11 days, 12 days. But the moment we began to draw awareness on that, in less than 2 days, these people have quenched fire. They're like, so what you now see that our advocacy is working, right? You see some communities where now people now know that this is an issue, and the government, stakeholders, in order to save their face, they fix it. And look at what happened in Ogoni land. We have the high prep now. We have remediation processes. People now know about the Ogoni struggle. You can't. I mean, they stopped drilling Ogoni for a long time. It's now they're now talking about. A lot of people don't even know that they have not been drilling Ogoni for more than 10 years. It's now they're talking about starting all over again, because the struggle paid off. Imagine if Kesarewa didn't come up. Imagine the place would have just been a wasteland, right? So we've seen success stories. And we know that anytime people say quit, I just think about Soko. I think about Ereleso, I think about Donkri, I think about Omok, I think about Ahuda West, I think about many of these communities that these guys don't have a voice at all. If we don't talk for them, they are gone. And when you have that at the back of your mind, you say, no, look, we need to keep talking and we need to keep pushing.
Thank you so much, Sobi. Let me also hear from you, Hawa. What are your words of encouragement to keep the fight going,
Okay, my words of encouragement to my fellow climate activist advocate is you can make a difference. Because a lot of people would see, okay, I am just one individual. What difference can I make? No, you can make a difference. So that's just it.
All right, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure having you guys on the program, and that's a wrap on the program today. There's so much to learn, so many stories, and I think this reminds us that beyond the information that we see out there, there are actually real people that are going through this crisis. So we should be actually very careful of saying climate change is a scam, because that's the importance of having these people here. So beyond all those, beyond the backlash, beyond the cancel culture, let's ensure to be more sensitive towards these issues, because there are real people that are involved in this crisis. So it's quite important that we all, are more informed and we take as much action as is required. And that brings us to the end of this discussion. It was very good to have my wonderful guests share their insights on the program. Let us know what you think and what more you want to see. And if you've also seen communities around you, or if you're in such a community, that faces those kind of crises, ensure to reach out and speak up. And hopefully, a lot of advocates will be there. So just be sure that you're not keeping silent. And of course, the fight would go on. Many thanks for watching. I'm Tonio Gubanjo. It's bye for now.